beautiful people. It's out for delivery. Hey, yes. Been waiting for that. All right. Top of the day, beautiful people. Top of the day. We got a new moon coming, y'all. It is Monday. Happy Monday. It is November the 29th, 2021. Y'all, it is. I'm just baffled every day how close and closer we're getting to the new year. All right, beautiful people. Today, it is November. I just said, I'm going to repeat it again because I paused. It is Monday, November the 29th, 2021, day 314 of year 3 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 982. Today, y'all, we reading Psalm 137 through 139, and then we're going to start at chapter 14 of Shakespeare's Secret Messiah. All right? And that's on page, I didn't put page number, 389. All right, now, so let's go ahead and get started here with the Shema chapter. The chapter where the Shema is found. Mom, shalom, shalom, great rising, Shayla, blessings, Lavon, and everybody else there. Oh, yes. Okay. All right, y'all, let's pull this up. And it's found in Deuteronomy chapter 6, y'all. It's a call for wholehearted commitment. Okay. These are the commands, decrees, and regulations that Yahuwah, your God, commanded me to teach you. You must obey them in the land you are about to enter and occupy, and you and your children and grandchildren must fear Yahuwah, your God, as long as you live. If you obey all his decrees and commands, you will enjoy a long life. Listen closely, Israel, and be careful to obey. Then all will go well with you, and you will have many children in the land flowing with milk and honey, just as Yahuwah, the God of your ancestors, promised you. Listen, O Israel, Yahuwah, our God, he is God alone. And you must love Yahuwah, your God, with all your heart, all your soul, and all your strength. And you must commit yourselves wholeheartedly to these commands I am giving you today. Repeat them again and again to your children. Talk about them when you're at home and when you're on the road, when you are going to bed and when you're getting up. Tie them to your hands and wear them on your forehead as reminders. Write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Yahuwah, your God, will soon bring you into the land he swore to give you when he made a vow to your ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It is a land with large, prosperous cities that you did not build. The houses will be richly stocked with goods that you did not produce. You will draw water from cisterns you did not dig, and you will eat from vineyards and olive trees you did not plant. When you have eaten your fill in this land, be careful not to forget Yahuwah, who rescued you from slavery in the land of Egypt. You must fear Yahuwah your God and serve him. When you take an oath, you must use only his name. You must not worship any of the gods of the neighboring nations, for Yahuwah your God, who lives among you, is a jealous God. his anger will flare up against you, and he will wipe you from the face of the earth. You must not test Yahuwah your God as you did when you complained at Massa. You must diligently obey the commands of Yahuwah your God, all the laws and decrees he has given you. Do what is right and good in Yahuwah's sight, so all will go well with you. Then you will enter and occupy the good land that Yahuwah swore to give your ancestors. You will drive out all the enemies living in the land, just as Yahuwah said you would. In the future, your children will ask you, what is the meaning of these laws, decrees, and regulations that Yahuwah our God has commanded us to obey? Then you must tell them, we were Pharaoh's slaves in Egypt, but Yahuwah brought us out of Egypt with his strong hand. Yahuwah did miraculous signs and wonders before our eyes, dealing terrifying blows against Egypt and Pharaoh and all his people. He brought us out of Egypt so he could give us this land that he swore to give our ancestors. And Yahuwah our God commanded us to obey all these decrees and to fear him, so he can continue to bless us and preserve our lives as he has done to this day. For we will be counted righteous when we obey all the commands Yahuwah our God has given us. Yahuwah is one. Good afternoon. Yes, thank you. May the great spirit of Yahuwah bless you and all with you as well. All right, y'all. Let's go to Psalm 7. All right, y'all. Psalm 137. Oh, no wonder I couldn't find it. I put palms. Said this chapter cannot be found. I'm like, wait, there is that chapter. I looked at a spelling. I put Palms 137 instead of Psalms 137. I forgot to ask. Beside the rivers of Babylon, we sat and wept as we thought of Jerusalem. We put away our harps, hanging them on the branches of poplar trees. For our captors demanded a song from us. Our tormentors insisted on a joyful hymn. Sing us one of them songs of Jerusalem. Or, we kind of hear the movies being played. Sing us one of them Negro spirituals. That's what they're really saying. But how can we sing the songs of Yahuwah while in a pagan land? If I forget you, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget how to play the harp. May my tongue stick to the roof of my mouth if I fail to remember you, if I don't make Jerusalem my greatest joy. Oh, Yah, remember what the Edomites did on the day the armies of Babylon captured Jerusalem. Destroy it, they yelled. Level it to the ground. O Babylon, you will be destroyed. Happy is the one who pays you back for what you have done to us. Happy is the one who takes your babies and smashes them against the rocks. Psalm 138, a psalm of David. I give you thanks, O Yah, with all my heart. I will sing your praise before the gods. I bow before your holy temple as I worship. I praise your name for your unfailing love and faithfulness, for your promises are backed by all the honor of your name. I'll read that again. I bow before your holy temple as I worship. I praise your name for your unfailing love and faithfulness, for your promises are backed by all the honor of your name. As soon as I pray, you answer me. You encourage me by giving me strength. Every king in all the earth will thank you. Yah, for all of them will hear your words. Yes, they will sing about Yahuwah's ways, for the glory of Yahuwah is very great. Though Yahuwah is great, he cares for the humble, but he keeps his distance from the proud. Though I am surrounded by troubles, you will protect me from the anger of my enemies. You reach out your hand, and the power of your right hand saves me. Yahuwah will work out his plans for my life. For your faithful love, O Yah, endures forever. Don't abandon me, for you made me. What? Oh, I'm tripping. Okay. Psalm 139. For the choir director, a psalm of David. O Yahuwah, you have examined my heart, and you know everything about me. You know when I sit down or stand up. You know my thoughts even when I'm far away. You see me when I travel and when I rest at home. You know everything I do. You know what I'm going to say even before I say it, Yah. You go before me and follow me. You place your hand of blessing on my head. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too great for me to understand. I can never escape from your spirit. I can never get away from your presence. If I go up to heaven, you are there. If I go down to the grave, you are there. If I ride the wings of the morning, if I dwell by the farthest oceans, even there, your hand will guide me, and your strength will support me. I could ask the darkness to hide me and the light around me to become night, but even in darkness I cannot hide from you. To you, the night shines as bright as day. Darkness and light are the same to you. You made all the delicate inner parts of my body. You knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it. You watched me as I was being formed in utter seclusion, as I was woven together in the dark of the womb. You saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed. How precious are your thoughts about me, O Yah. They cannot be numbered. I can't even count them. They outnumber the grains of sand. And when I wake up, you are still with me. O Yah, if you would only destroy the wicked, get out of my life, you murderers. They blaspheme you, and your enemies misuse your name. O Yah, shouldn't I hate those who hate you? Shouldn't I despise those who oppose you? Yes, I hate them with total hatred, for your enemies are my enemies. Search me, O Yah, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you, and lead me along the path of everlasting life. I absolutely love that chapter. All right, y'all. And that was our reading for today. That was Psalm 137 through 139. So let's hop on over here to Shakespeare's Secret Messiah. Tiffany, hey, girl, hey. All right. Chapter 14 is entitled The Scope of Roaming Planning, Rabbinical Judaism. All right. It is strange that while the differences between Christianity and Rabbinical Judaism are well known, their similarities are not. Few are aware that both religions purport to have been organized in Palestine during the 1st century, and that each religion claims its original leadership stemmed from the house of David. Fewer still know that both religions superseded and replaced the militaristic form of Judaism, which thought it had been widespread before the war against the Romans disappeared at the very time the two new religions were developing their first congregations. One reason that these facts are not well known is that, until now, they have not been seen as having much significance. Few historians have seen the coincidence that the few forms of Judaism came into existence at the same time as suspicious or requiring an explanation. Let me read that again. Few historians have seen the coincidence that the new forms of Judaism came into existence at the same time as suspicious or requiring an explanation. In Caesar's Messiah, however, I presented evidence indicating that Christianity had been invented by a group of intellectuals working for the Flavians, the family that had crushed the revolt of the Messianic movement that Christianity and Rabbinical Judaism replaced. This new understanding regarding Christianity may lead to a totally different opinion of the Rabbinical Judaism as well. As the story is told by Cliff Carrington, quote, there are many Jewish legends about the founding of their post-temple religion. These are found in the Talmud and the Haggadah. With minor variations, the story goes like this. During the siege of Jerusalem in the summer of 70 CE, a Jewish priest, a deputy head of the Sanhedrin, a Pharisee named Johanan ben Zakkai, defected to the Romans. It is written that he communicated to the Roman camp via aeromail that he was a friend of Vespasian and wished to come over. The Romans gave him a promise of safe conduct if he could get out of the strife-torn city. Rabbi Johanan devised a scheme with the assistance of a relative who was in charge of a gate to be carried out of Jerusalem in a coffin. This deception was needed because none of the dead were allowed out of the city. His disciples, with permission, carried their master out to the cemetery and placed the coffin in a burial cave. Later at night, Rabbi ben Zakkai got out of the coffin and made his way to the Roman camp, where he was welcomed. The rabbi then has an interview with Vespasian, and it has in parentheses, sick, S-I-C, the commander of the siege. During the interview, Rabbi ben Zakkai gives Vespasian a prophecy very similar to Josephus's that he would soon become emperor. He was taken into the camp to await the outcome of the war. Then Vespasian becomes emperor, fulfilling Ben Zakkai's prophecy. After the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple, the rabbi was rewarded. Vespasian allotted Rabbi Johanan ben Zakkai and his disciples, who had also defected or somehow survived the destruction, a place of refuge in the coastal town of Jamnia. This little town was on the main highway along the Mediterranean Sea, the Via Maris. There, under Roman protection and perhaps guidance, the rabbis founded an academy for the study of the Jewish scriptures, which gained the name the Vineyard. This name either came from the fact that the academy was actually set up in an old vineyard, or because the students sat in rows like planted grapevines. Either way, the members of this academy were the roots of modern Judaism. That's reference 98 in the back. After learning that the Flavians had invented Christianity, I became curious as to why they provided the rabbis with a land grant to establish rabbinical Judaism. It seemed logical to me that as the Flavians had created one of the two religions that had replaced the militaristic form of Judaism, they also created the other. I began an analysis of the literature of rabbinical Judaism to determine if it contained clues like those within the Christian canon, indicating that the Flavians had created that religion. This study led to the following conclusions. 1. Rabbinical Judaism was, like Christianity, a religion created by the Flavians. 2. Many of the original rabbis of the religion were not Jews, but Roman converts or proselytes to Judaism who were under the employment of the Flavians. Dark night, shalom. Number 3. Much of the canon of the religion was not created for a theological purpose, but to mind shape Judaism's religious warriors into docile students obsessed with legal minutia. Number 4. Exactly as they had done with the Gospels, the Flavians constructed a satirical message within the religion's canon to notify posterity that they created rabbinical Judaism and that the God of the Jews' worship was the Flavian Caesar. Number 5. Rome was successful in both destroying real Judaism, which was the xenophobic religion of the Maccabees, and incredibly in hiding this fact from history. Read it again. Rome was successful in both destroying the real Judaism, which was the xenophobic religion of the Maccabees, and incredibly in hiding this fact from history. An obvious question is, why would the Flavians have found it necessary to create two new versions of Judaism? To answer this question, we must look to the political situation the Flavians faced in Judea following their war with the Messianic Jewish rebel forces. What you looking, baby?
I just set my change out keys for the furniture, but I don't think I brought them in. I'll be right back.
Okay. The Flavians' war with the Jews was a part of the border and longer The Flavians' war with the Jews was part of the broader and longer conflict between Judaism and Hellenism. Judaism was based upon monotheism and faith and was simply incompatible with Hellenism, the Greek culture that promoted polytheism and rationalism. Hellenism spread into Judea following the area's conquest by Alexander the Great in 333 BCE. The people of Israel, in spite of their historic resistance to outside influences, began to assimilate certain traits of their ruling class. Many Semites found it desirable, if not necessary, to speak Greek. Wealthy Jews, watch it.
You need to wash some socks.
I got you back. Wealthy Jews sought a Greek education for their young men. Gymnasia introduced Jewish students to Greek myths, sports, music, and arts. However, there was a backlash to Hellenism's engulfing of Jewish culture. In 167 BCE, the Maccabees, a family of religious, zealous Jews, led a revolution against the Seleucids, the Greek descendants of a general in Alexander's army that had come to rule the region. The Maccabees sought to not only repel the Seleucids, but to restore the religion that they believed was mandated by God for his holy land. They required all the inhabitants of the cities they conquered to convert to Judaism. Males either permitted themselves to be circumcised or were slain. After a 20-year struggle, the Maccabees eventually prevailed. To quote 1 Maccabees, the yoke of the Gentiles was removed from Israel. And that's 1 Maccabees, chapter 13, verse 41. Though the Maccabees ruled Israel for over 100 years, their kingdom was never secure. The Seleucid threat to the region was replaced by a greater one, Rome. Roman expansion and Hellenistic culture constantly threatened to engulf the Judaic nation that the family had established. In 65 BCE, a civil war broke out between two Maccabean rivals for the throne. It was at this time that the family of Herod appeared on the scene. The Herods were not Jewish, but of Greek and Arab descent and thoroughly Hellenized. The father of Herod, the wily Antipater, managed to become an advisor to Hyrcanus, one of the Maccabees vying for power. Through him, Antipater helped bring about a Roman intervention to the Civil War. When Pompey sent a Roman army into Israel, it marked the beginning of the end of the Maccabean religious state. For the next 30 years, 65 through 37 BCE, Israel suffered through one war after another. Drive safe. In 40 BCE, the last Maccabean ruler, Matthias Antigonus, seized control of the country. By this time, however, the Herodian family had become firmly established as Rome's surrogate in the region, and with Roman support, defeated Matthias's army and gained control of Judea. After capturing Jerusalem, Herod executed all of the Maccabean Sanhedrin, with the exception of Pollio and Samius, two Pharisees who had instructed the people to open the gates to Herod's army. Though the Flavians were later able to put down the revolt of 70 CE, they still faced a potential threat to their financial interests in the region. Josephus recorded that what had most elevated the Jews to rebel against Rome was their belief that God would send to Israel a Messiah. Following the war, many Jews continued to hope for the coming of a son of David. Though they had crushed their revolt, the families had not destroyed the messianic religion of the Jewish rebels. The families needed to find a way to prevent the zealots' belief that God would send them a warrior Messiah from inspiring future uprisings. So if you weren't here for the earlier... All right, son, love you.
You want to bake? Okay,
Tootie, we'll bake that in a few. Choose the one you want. If you weren't here for Caesar's Messiah, Joy, Shalom, if you weren't here for Caesar's Messiah when they were breaking this down, how
I love bake.
Okay, babe. Just pull out all the stuff and we'll get it.
Look, I know.
All right. When it was okay, Tootie. When it was explaining the Maccabees and I forget their name.
I get stuff already.
I'm sitting here trying to think of their name. But, and it started with an S. Hold on.
Spartacus.
No, the Sakari. He says Spartacus.
Wait, Mom.
The Sakari, right? In the beginning, in Caesar's Messiah, it gave a really good breakdown, like he just mentioned, of who they were, the Sakari and the Maccabees, right? And what had happened. So the original thought about this whole Messiah wasn't like Christianity teaches it today. And notice how it keeps saying the warrior Messiah or the militaristic Jews and the Maccabees and stuff. Is because they were looking for a Messiah. But it was clear that they were looking for not someone who was going to come from heaven, not this supernatural person born of heaven, of a virgin and stuff. That's not who they were looking for. They knew somebody from their own people, Yahuwah would raise up and make the warrior in their Messiah to lead them, right, and to rule. They knew it was somebody within them, which is why even when you get to the New Testament, it tells the story of how Herod began to kill all the newborns up to the 2-year-olds. But that story was also adapted from the Older Testament when Pharaoh was killing the young boys, right? Because they didn't want this.
So cut that off.
Spoke of a Messiah, they were not talking about Jesus Christ. They knew somebody from within them, right? Not somebody from heaven who would come down, right? But somebody would be raised up from their men who would be their leader, their Messiah, their Savior, right? So that's how they looked at it. But it seems to evolve and change over the years as religions grew and multiplied.
Pulling all my ingredients out.
Okay, thank you for pulling out all the ingredients.
We got butter, bow, cake, and eggs.
Yes, very good. Though they had crushed their revolt, the families had not destroyed the messianic religion of the Jewish rebels. The families needed to find a way to prevent the zealots' belief that God would send them a warrior Messiah from inspiring future uprisings. Caesar's Messiah presented one of the methods the families concocted to head off any future revolts. They created Christianity as a replacement messianic religion whose son of David was absurdly not a warrior, but a tax-paying pacifist. Though their version of Judaism would succeed beyond their highest hopes, it was not useful in controlling those Jews who would not accept the new religion. Those Jews would always be vulnerable to the messianic prophecies that had inspired the revolt. To end this threat, Judaism itself would need to be transformed, and to do that required controlling its leadership and theology. Belinda Brown, shalom, auntie. Following their seizing of the throne, the Flavians took control over the centers of learning throughout the empire. They made appointments to the chairs and payments of salaries to the instructors in philosophical schools in Rome, Athens, and Alexandria. And that's reference 99 in the back. Viewed from this perspective, the academy that produced rabbinical Judaism was simply another Flavian education center. It produced thousands of rabbis, a word that is often translated as teacher, but actually means master, and stems from the Hebrew word rab, meaning great. These rabbis would have presumably taught the theology that they learned at the Flavian Academy, right? Which is why, I like the way he said it, but which is why I was telling y'all, I said, y'all can't listen to what the no slight against the Jewish people if you're hearing you're Jewish, right? But what they're teaching and how they're teaching it, I was like, you cannot listen to them. Even people, when they calculate the month and stuff, I was like, y'all still off. I said, y'all cannot listen to them. I said, because they're teaching you wrong. But because they've been there for so long and people kind of still look at them as the authority, which they are not. They will teach you some true things, but a lot of it is mixation and just complete wrongness all the way around, right? So you cannot listen to them. You have to learn how to not just don't listen to them. That's all I'm gonna say. I ain't gonna get into it. Keep reading. These rabbis would have presumably taught the theology that they learned at the Flavian Academy. A passage from Wars of the Jews may describe the actual beginnings of the academy. Josephus recorded that a group of priests defected to Titus during the siege of Jerusalem and were given Roman protection and temporarily housed in Gophna. Titus promised the priests to respect their customs and that following the war, he would return their prophecy. Don't turn it on with that aluminum foil in there, Pooh.
Okay.
Titus promised the priests to respect their customs and that following the war, he would return their property. This was most likely the group of priests, possibly including the founder of Rabbinical Judaism, Johanan ben Zakkai, and his disciples, who were finally settled at Jamnia by the Flavians. Quote, You got to measure that. Where'd you get that water from? You just got it from out of there? Okay, maybe I wasn't paying attention. You don't want to put too much in there. You got to measure it. Get the measuring cup. And it's 1 cup of water. See that? Look, see that little glass right there? Look at that glass right there on the counter. That glass is 1 cup. Get one of those and fill that up, and you can pour that in the bowl. That one right there by your arm. That you just touched. Yep, one of them, but get a clean one. Yes, one of those. Yes. No, don't use that one though. Get a clean one.
This one?
Is that clean?
No, I had to clean it out.
Okay. She's trying to bake a cake, y'all, first thing in the morning. Some also there who were watching a proper opportunity when they might quietly get away, fled to the Romans, of whom were the high priests Joseph and Jesus, and the sons of high priests 3, whose father was Ishmael, who was beheaded in Cyrene, and 4 sons of Matthias, as also 1 son of the other Matthias, who ran away after his father's death, and whose father was slain by Simon, the son of Gioras, with 3 of his sons, as I have already related. Many also of the other nobility went over to the Romans, together with the high priest. Now Caesar Titus not only received these men very kindly in other respects, but knowing they would not willingly live after the customs of other nations, he sent them to Gophna and desired them to remain there for the present, and told them that when he was gotten clear of this war, he would restore each of them to their possessions again. So they cheerfully retired to that small city which was allotted them without fear of any danger. End quote. And that's Jewish War, volume 6, chapter 2, page 2. Why did Titus protect these priests? The Flavians would not have given favors to Jews cheaply at this point in history. They had just completed a costly war with Judaism and were looking to make certain that the religion did not erupt against the Roman Empire again. Therefore, why did the Flavians create a compound for the study of Judaism and the production of rabbis? Like the authors of the Gospels, the rabbis at Jamnia created a new form of Judaism. Their canon had a completely different theological and political perspective than that found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, which contain references to the Messiah and to the struggle with Romans. The rabbis' canon was purged of references to revolutionary activity to such an extent that, for example, it no longer even included a mention of the Maccabean victory that the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah was based upon. This Jewish canon was completely removed from the messianic and military struggle that dominated the focus of whoever had produced the Dead Sea Scrolls. The focus of the new rabbinical literature was almost entirely upon the study of the minutiae of the Judaic law. Shalom, Jen Perry, shalom. The academy's location within Galilee was moved from time to time, first to Usha at the time of the Bar Kokhba revolt, and then to Bet Sharim, Tiberias, Caesarea, and finally Lydda at the end of the 4th century. The academy would have needed to obtain an imperial land grant for each new location, showing the long-standing approval the Roman emperor had for the work of the rabbis. And that's reference 100. Hold on, I'm trying to see. Did I break that up? Okay. But we can still see this is mainly what Judaism is, right? It's a bunch of rabbis and those aspiring rabbis who are sitting at synagogue and a temple studying the law and rocking back and forth at the holiness of the words, right? This is exactly what is still happening today. They've completely changed it. Clearly we know that, but this is what he's explaining. Listen. Rabbinical literature records many of the individuals who assisted in this multi-generational endeavor, including some women. Gamaliel II, Nazi of the house of David, eventually took over from Zakkai as head of the academy. He was recognized as a patriarch by the emperor, an endorsement that indicated the emperor's approval of the work of the academy. During his era, the academy's scholars were recorded as having advised Rome on the content of their teaching. The Talmud contains a story regarding 4 rabbis, including Gamaliel II, who traveled to Rome about the year 95 CE to confer with a min, M-I-N, that is a non-Jew, to discuss theology. Gamaliel II was the great-great-grandson of Hillel, whose name is still proverbial in Judaism today. Gamaliel II's grandfather was the Gamaliel, who was the doctor of the law that was an instructor to Paul and the apostles, as described in Acts chapter 5, verse 34, and Acts chapter 22, verse 3. The fact that the grandfather of one of the founders of rabbinical Judaism was also a teacher of the apostles has struck scholars as notable heretofore, but with no clear meaning. However, again, with the insights gained through Caesar's Messiah, a sinister picture emerges. In Acts, Gamaliel describes the death of Judas the Galilean, the founder of the Sicarii movement. Quote, Judas the Galilean arose in the days of the census and led many people astray. He perished and all of them scattered. End quote. And that's Acts chapter 5, verse 37. Such a statement by Gamaliel II's grandfather concerning Judas the Galilean leading people astray suggests that the effort to transform Judaism was multi-generational, perhaps beginning with the creation of the Herodian Sanhedrin that Gamaliel presided over. Judas the Galilean was the individual who Josephus recorded as being a founder of the Messianic movement or innovation that rebelled from Rome. Both Gamaliel's association with Paul and his perspective on Judas the Galilean suggests that he, like Paul, was directly linked to Rome. Many of the rabbis involved with the establishment of rabbinical Judaism possessed known connections to Rome. The friends of the emperor, Rabbi Johanan ben Zakkai and Gamaliel II, presided over the first setting of the canon of the Hebrew Scriptures. Rabbi Meir, a Roman who purportedly converted to Judaism on a trip to Judaism, getting tongue-tied. Rabbi Meir, a Roman who purportedly converted to Judaism on a trip to Judea, organized the Mishnah, and Judah ha-Nasi, the confidant of the Antoine, I think it's Antonine. I think it's Antoine. That might be spelled wrong. It says Antonine. Of the Antonine emperors began, let me just read the whole sentence over again. I done thoroughly screwed it up. Okay, let's go back. Rabbi Meir, a Roman who purportedly converted to Judaism on a trip to Judea, organized the Mishnah, and the Judah ha-Nasi, the confidant of the Antonine emperors, began the organization of the central work of rabbinical Judaism, the Talmud. There are two Talmuds, one called the Babylonian Talmud and the other the Jerusalem Talmud, because one was edited in Iraq and the other in Palestine. Each Talmud preserves the halakha, the legal traditions purported inherited by the rabbis following the destruction of the temple, the so-called oral law, and the Mishnah. Later scholars and redactors added a great number of commentaries to this literature. We have, unfortunately, only the descriptions recorded in this single body of literature to learn the truth regarding the process that established rabbinical Judaism following Rome's crushing of the Messianic religion. There is no Jewish voice that speaks to history other than those that came from the academies established by the Flavians. The history that we have been given indicates that the rabbis made a number of changes to Judaism following the rebellion. The first rabbis caused Jews to abandon Israel, the temple, holy war, and their Messiah. To replace Israel, Jews were given the Roman Commonwealth, for the temple, the Rabbinical Academy, for holy war, the endless interpretation of Scripture, and for the Messiah, the Rabbi. Read that again. That's good. Listen. The history that we have been given indicates that the rabbis made a number of changes to Judaism following the rebellion. The first rabbis caused Jews to abandon Israel, the temple, holy war, and their Messiah. To replace Israel, Jews were given the Roman Commonwealth, for the temple, the Rabbinical Academy, for holy war, the endless interpretation of Scripture, and for the Messiah, the Rabbi. What they were given is the religion we know today as Rabbinical Judaism. Though this religion has been always seen as a legitimate form of Judaism, it was not the religion of the Jews who brought about the rebellion. And remember, when they say the rebellious Jews, Bella, don't add any more water. When they say the rebellious Jews, they're talking about the Maccabees and the Sicarii, those who were not falling for this trick of Rome that was changing everything and that was burning the original Torahs and stuff. Anytime you hear about the rebellious Jews, those are the originals, like the people of Yah, the Hebrews. They call them rebellious because they were rebelling against Roman authority and the Roman takeover. We the rebels. Rabbinical literature records 4 different but related versions of how the academy that produced the new Judaism was created.
Why is it turning black?
It's turning black. Oh. Is that? No, that's not. You thought you got the chocolate. That's not the chocolate, Pooh. That's why it's not turning black. That's the yellow cake. Okay.
No, it's not. It's the cream on cake.
Okay. Oh no, that's not how you make the cream. That's the actual cake mix, Tootie. You got to make the cream, the icing that goes on it, in a different bowl. We'll make that. You don't have all the ingredients out for that because you need the confectioner's sugar. You can take that out. You're just mixing up the mix. We'll make the icing in a few. Rabbinical literature records 4 different but related versions of how the academy that produced the new Judaism was created following the destruction of the temple in 70 CE. Each of the 2 versions of Abba di Rabbi Nathan,
Mommy?
the fathers according to Rabbi Nathan,
Mom.
is distinct,
Mom.
while another version...
It tastes like pancakes.
Okay. While another version is told in the Babylonian Talmud, and yet another is found in Lamentations Rabbah. Scholars have experienced severe problems in dating rabbinic material. It is not known exactly when the extant editions of the rabbinic works were created, when the stories that they contain were originally written, or by whom. Further, it is apparent that over the centuries, redactors had made numerous changes and additions to original stories, making it even more difficult to determine the original author's meaning. Such is the case with the tales concerning Zakkai's escape. Nevertheless, the 4 variations tell a similar version of the story. In the summer of 70 CE, during the Roman siege of Jerusalem, a Jewish priest and Pharisee named Johanna or Jochanan ben Zakkai, the deputy head of the Sanhedrin, defected to the Romans. One version of the story states that he communicated to the Roman camp by shooting an arrow with a message attached to it that stated that he was a friend of the Roman general Vespasian and wished to defect. The Romans somehow communicated back to him a promise of safe conduct, but he needed to find a way out of the encircled city. Rabbi Johanna, with the assistance of a relative who was in charge of a gate, devised a scheme for him to be placed in a coffin and taken out of Jerusalem. His disciples carried their master's coffin out to the city's cemetery and placed it in a burial cave. That night, Rabbi Ben Zakkai left the coffin and made his way to the Roman camp, where he was taken to Vespasian. Wrong one, not that sugar. You need the confectioner's sugar, the powdered sugar. The rabbi then had an interview with the Roman general. During this meeting, Zakkai is described in the rabbinic sources as applying Judaism's star prophecy, the most... That's flour, babe. You can't reach it. I got it sitting up at the top. You gotta wait a minute. Hold on, Pooh.
Where is it?
I get it for you. You can't reach it. During this meeting, Zakkai is described in the rabbinic sources as applying Judaism's star prophecy, the most precious prophecy of the Jewish people at that time, to Vespasian, stating that the Roman commander would soon become the ruler of the world. 3 days after Zakkai's amazing prophecy, a messenger came from Rome and stated that Nero had died and Vespasian was to be made emperor. Vespasian then rewarded Zakkai and his disciples, who had also managed to escape, and gave them a land grant to establish an academy for the study and promotion of Judaism in the coastal town of Jamna, a town on the Via Maris, the main Roman highway along the Mediterranean Sea. Hold on, y'all. This is just repeating. Just making sure. It's almost repeating word for word. I just want to make sure I didn't mess around and flip my pages back. Okay, no, yeah, because I'm on, yeah, we good. Well, we started on 389, now we're on 398. Okay. There are a number of problems with the various stories describing Zakkai's escape, perhaps the least of which being that Vespasian was not present during the siege of Jerusalem. The commander there was his son Titus. Further, when Rabbi Johanna ben Zakkai purportedly escaped from the siege in the summer of 70 CE and foresaw that Vespasian would become the ruler of the world, he was already emperor. The most fundamental problem with the legend, however, is that Zakkai, the deputy head of the governing body that presided over Jewish law, chose to apply Judaism's star prophecy to a non-Jew. The application of the star prophecy to a non-Jew would be suspect at any time, as it would have been in complete violation of Jewish law and tradition. To have such an act presented in the Jewish canon as the very foundation of modern Judaism demands an explanation. Why would a Jewish scholar create an obviously fictitious tale glorifying the head of a family that destroyed Jerusalem and razed the temple? Razed as in R-A-Z-E, like raided or completely destroyed that, and razed the temple. Why would later rabbinic scholars have allowed this tale to remain in their canon, presented as the origin of their religion? Scholars have taken the position that these inconsistencies can never be resolved because of the lack of reliable source material from this era. The discoveries presented in Caesar's Messiah, however, provide us with the means to understand the complex story that describes Zakkai's defection to the Romans.
The big one?
Yes.
Oh.
That work showed that the Roman intellectuals who produced the Gospels created them as intertextual typological literature. They created typological relationships between the Gospels and different texts, particularly Josephus's Wars of the Jews, to produce meanings beyond that which is conveyed in the surface narration. To create these relationships, they employ elements that are used throughout Hebraic literature to create types, which are parallel concepts, locations, and sequences. Understanding the typological relationship that exists between the Gospels and the histories of Josephus provides the real meaning of the story of Zakkai's escape and subsequent meaning with Vespasian. This is because that story shares parallels with a tale in Flavius Josephus' Wars of the Jews regarding the future Roman emperor. And we almost done, y'all. We at 51 minutes, but we are not going to finish this chapter either. So in about a page or two, in about a page or two, we'll put a pause on it. In the story, Josephus, who claimed to have been commander of the Jewish revolutionary forces of Galilee, took refuge with several companions in a cave following the collapse of the defenses at Jotapata, Jotapata. Rather than surrender to the Romans, Josephus entered into a suicide pact with his compatriots. After he and another rebel had dispatched all of the others, however, Josephus blithely decided that they should surrender to the Romans rather than take their own lives. Brought before Vespasian, Josephus proceeded to apply the star prophecy to the Roman general. When this came to pass, so to speak, and Vespasian became emperor, he rewarded Josephus by adopting him into the Flavian family and permitting him to live within the Flavian court at Rome. Josephus's meeting with Vespasian shares numerous parallels with the description in rabbinical literature of Zakkai's escape. Both events take place during Roman sieges where a Jewish priest escapes in a manner that figuratively brings him back from the dead, is captured by the Romans and taken to Vespasian, whom he improbably applies the star prophecy. Vespasian then rewards the priest when his predictions come to pass. Such parallels are, in and of themselves, unusual enough to raise the question of whether or not the two stories were deliberately linked. It is not merely...
Can spray on there?
Go ahead. It is not merely that the stories share the same plot and circumstances, but these are the only tales that apply the Judaic messianic prophecies to a non-Jew. However, Josephus' application of the star prophecy to Vespasian is the moment when Messianic Judaism was converted into the Caesar cult of Christianity. At that moment, Caesar became the Messiah of Judaism. Below is the passage from Wars of the Jews describing Josephus' escape and subsequent interview with Vespasian. Notice that, like Jesus, Josephus was in the cave for 3 days and was discovered by a woman. Quote, "And now the Romans searched for Josephus among the dead, but he was assisted by a certain supernatural providence, for he withdrew himself from the enemy when he was in the midst of them and leaped into a certain deep pit. Thus he concealed himself 2 days, but on the 3rd day, when they had taken a woman who had been with them, he was discovered. Whereupon Vespasian sent immediately and zealously 2 tribunes and ordered them to give Josephus their right hands as a security for his life and to exhort him to come up. Josephus was not unacquainted with the prophecies contained in the sacred books as being a priest himself, and just then he was in an ecstasy. He put up a secret prayer to God and said, 'Since it pleaseth thee, who has created the Jewish nation, to depress the same, and since all their good fortune is gone over to the Romans, and since thou hast made choice of this soul of mine to foretell what is to come to pass hereafter, I willingly give them my hands and am content to live. I protest openly that I do not go over to the Romans as a deserter of the Jews, but as a minister from thee.' But when those Jews who had fled with him understood that he yielded to those that invited him to come up, they came about him in a body and cried out, 'O Josephus, art thou still fond of thy life? Thou hast therefore had a false reputation for manhood. We ought to take care that the glory of our forefathers may not be tarnished. We will lend thee our right hand and a sword, and if thou wilt die willingly, thou wilt die as a general of the Jews. But if unwillingly, thou wilt die as a traitor to them.' As soon as they had said this, they began to thrust their swords at him. Upon this, Josephus was afraid of their attacking him. Trusting himself to the providence of God, he put his life into hazard in the manner following. 'And now,' he said, 'since it is resolved among you that you will die, come on, let us commit our mutual deaths to determination by lot. He who had the first lot laid his neck bare to him that had the next, as supposing that the general would die among them immediately. But they thought death, if Josephus might but die with them, was sweeter than life. Yet was he with another left to the last, whether they must say it happened so by chance, or whether by the providence of God. And as he was very desirous neither to be condemned by the lot, nor if he had been left to the last, to imbrue his right hand in the blood of his countrymen, he persuaded him. Are you going to have to wait? He persuaded him to trust his fidelity to him and to live as well as himself. Thus Josephus escaped in the war with the Romans and was led to Vespasian. Vespasian gave strict orders that he should be kept with great caution, as though he would in a very little time send him to Nero. End quote. And that's Wars of the Jews, Volume 3, Chapter 8, pages 1 through 8. So that could be lines 1 through 8. The following part of the story contains its most important message. To understand its real meaning requires knowing that Josephus was one of the group that created the Gospels to act as a type of the story of Titus's campaign. Understanding the typological relationship between Jesus' ministry and Titus's campaign reveals that the following passage establishes Vespasian as God the Father and his son Titus as the Son of God that the New Testament predicts will destroy Jerusalem. This moment is the beginning of Christianity as we know it. Adri Shalom. Quote, when Josephus heard him give those orders, he said that he had somewhat in his mind that he would willingly say to himself alone, When therefore they were all ordered to withdraw, excepting Titus and 2 of their friends, he said, Thou, O Vespasian, thinkest no more than that thou hast taken Josephus himself captive, but I come to thee as a messenger of greater tidings. For had not I been sent by God to thee, I knew what was the law of the Jews in this case, and how it becomes generals to die. Dost thou send me to Nero? For why? Are Nero's successors till they come to thee still alive? Thou, O Vespasian, art Caesar and emperor, thou and this thy son. Bind me now still faster, and keep me for thyself. For thou, O Caesar, art not only Lord over me, but Lord over land and the sea. And when he had said this, Vespasian supposed that Josephus said this as a cunning trick in order to his own preservation. But in a little time he was convinced and believed that what he said to be true, God himself erecting his expectations so as to think of obtaining the empire, and by other signs foreshowing his advancement. Yet did he not set Josephus at liberty from his hands, but bestowed on him suits of clothes and other precious gifts. He treated him also in a very obliging manner, and continued to do so. End quote. And that's the Wars of the Jews, Volume 3, Chapter 8, page 9.
Mommy?
All right, so we'll pause right here. Yes, babe.
Is this? Mom?
Yes.
Is this one?
No, it's not that one. It's the one on the top. But in order to press that one, you have to actually turn it on. But leave it be, child. All right, beautiful people. So we'll pause right there. That was the middle of the chapter. We'll actually finish up reading this tomorrow.
It's on.
Yeah, we're gonna be done with this before. We're gonna be done with this book before the end of the week. I'm sorry, page 402. All right, y'all. Hope y'all enjoyed the reading. Sorry for all the disruptions with Bella over here trying to make a cake, y'all. She's literally trying to make a cake. Y'all may have for me.
For your birthday.
For my birthday. How long is that cake gonna last, sis? I don't think that cake gonna make it past noon today with your brethren and your cousin. But you making it for my birthday, which is next year.
Yes.
She just want cake. Got up and let her make a cake yesterday. She did pretty good. She pulled out all the ingredients. She pulled out all the ingredients by looking at the pictures on the box. And then she started mixing stuff together. She pulled out the right ingredients too. I just had to taper that water off a little bit. And the oil. But she pulled out the 3 eggs and everything. Okay. All right, y'all. So it is Monday, November the 29th. 2021, day 300. No. Let me check that. Let me make sure this mixed good all the way first. Hold on.
It did. I put some eggs in it.
Girl, how many eggs you put in here?
1, 2, and 3.
Very good. But how much water did you put in here? You put 3 cups of water. So I wasn't even paying attention. See this? This don't look like the mix we made yesterday. That's a lot of mix, Tootie. We probably need to add another box of cake to that. Don't pour it in there. Lord have mercy. Okay. Go ahead. All right, y'all. Day 314 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 982. We read Psalms 137 through 139, and we read the first half of chapter 14 of Shakespeare's Secret Messiah, pages 389 to page 402. All right, y'all. So with that being said, let me hear. Let's just do this blessing real. We about to do the blessing, girl. Put that cake mix down. Come on, here with the blessing. What is that? Girl, don't stick that on me. Throw that away. Huh?
It's sticky.
Yeah. Don't stick it on my arm.
It's stick on
Put it in trash, girl.
I just put it on my arm.
Put it in trash. The blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. Let's go, sis. Come on, get up here.
I still have them.
And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, Yahuwah will kneel before us presenting gifts and will guard us with a hedge of protection. Yahuwah will illuminate the wholeness of his being towards us, bringing order, and he will provide us with love, sustenance, and friendship. Yahuwah will lift up his wholeness of being and look upon us, and he will set in place all we need to be whole and complete. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. I love y'all. We're about to get out of here. I'm
Let's get out of here.
Finish making this cake before we gotta get work going. All right.
On your birthday.
On my birthday is in March. We in November of the previous year before the year of my birthday.
No, I'm just making your birthday.
Okay. Well, we'll see if it lasts to March the 30th.
And you need ice cream cone
Ice cream cone.
back here.
I'll be all right.
And you need some sprinkles.
Okay. All right, y'all.
Let's go,
We're going to
Star.
end this video. All right, y'all. See y'all tomorrow.
Please.
See y'all tomorrow, bright and early, 7:15 a.m.-ish. Peace.
Let's go. No, I didn't.
No, you didn't. You just changed the screen where you can't see it. Okay. All right. You got to hit it right there. Oh, all right, y'all.
Get out of here.